presentation and discussion with Pastor Jim Noble regarding the Neighbors in Need AZ program. Pastor Noble? And if you please identify yourself when you speak, that would help us keep accurate records. Thank you.
Pastor Jim Noble from Desert Hills Presbyterian Church, and representing today Neighbors in Need AZ. Mr. Mayor, Council, first thank you all for your service in the community and helping to make it a wonderful place to live in and to further each other as we grow together as a community. Neighbors in Need AZ is brought together a lot of the service agencies within our community. Our goal was to facilitate the connections between people in need and the agencies that provide services. As a pastor, I'd have somebody who would come into the church and they'd have a need, and I'd have to spend time calling the Salvation Army, call the food bank, call the St. Vincent de Paul group, and try and coordinate all of these things. And at the same time, the agencies themselves would have to spend time trying to talk to each other when they had permission and work together as best they could. About a little over a year ago, there was a request for some assistance regarding homeless, and that's sort of a place where we started. We're no longer just focused on homeless, but what we realized at that point in time is trying to connect people to the agencies is really the vital need within our community. So we brought together all the agencies. They now meet once a month. They include the Food Bank, the Caring Corps, they include the YMCA, both St. Vincent de Paul's from Our Lady of Joy and St. Gabriel. They also include the YMCA, Scottsdale Healthcare, and Hospice of the Valley at the present time, and there are more that are seeking to come in as well. We have just one website now that anybody in our community can go to and submit a request for help, and that request will go specifically to those agencies that provide that specific service. They are then notified of that request, and they then log in and see that portion of the request that's pertinent to them. They don't see the whole request, so that maintains a person's confidentiality. The agencies then can, through our website, communicate and work together to meet the needs of that individual or family in our community. So it facilitates that conversation and communication and makes it easier for folks who have a need to go just to one place and to make contact. This has also brought together the churches in the area. The churches in the area have been asked to come together to try and help support the agency, because not only they have in the past and being on board and volunteering, but also one of the things the agencies really requested our assistance with is if we could help them and hire a social worker. The social worker would be available to anybody in the community, regardless of age, gender, religious affiliation, and all that sort of stuff. And the social worker would be a person who would be willing to sit down with that person and actually help them as an individual or a family develop an action plan. Where do you go to if these are your needs? How do we help actually connect you to those agencies? So I'm pleased to report that as of tonight we have raised the funds necessary to hire our first part-time social worker, and we plan in February this month to actually post that position and announce it. That will really further help facilitate us. The other thing that the Neighbors in Need does is we bring the agencies together once a month for an hour meeting. And there at that hour meeting, the agencies are given 1 minute in which they can go around and introduce themselves, share one new thing or some new thing that they have started that they need everybody else to know about in the community. They can also identify trends that they have observed that they think are pertinent for us to know. An increase of foreclosures or an increase within our senior population of kids moving back in with them. Or the kids are now 50, 60, they're moving in with families and their parents in their 80s. So they can report observable trends. They also can report gaps in services. And one of the difficulties we have up in this area is we have needs, but we don't seem to have enough demand to, in the eyes of folks who provide service south of the 101, to get the service up here. And what they want to know is, can you prove that there is an actual need, and how can we make arrangements to provide somebody to come up here on a once-a-month basis, once-a-quarter basis. We now have the possibility of tracking some of those needs through the various agencies and to have conversations with folks down south. The churches are willing to open up places, so if the Veterans Association is willing to send up a representative once a month or once a quarter to help people with VA benefit questions, we can make that happen. So already the conversations have brought about some results as far as filling in some gaps. The Caring Corps came to us about 4 months ago and shared that they see a gap in service in that they provide help for people in-home respite care on a volunteer basis for up to 4 hours. However, the person has to be able to meet certain criteria of functionality in order for them to have a volunteer in their home. Hospice of the Valley is willing to come in at a certain point as well, but there's a gap in between. How do we meet that need? So through the agencies and conversation with the churches, we've gathered, we've looked at some options, and there's a new non-for-profit that's in the process of being formed. They launched thinking they were cleared with the state and everybody to go, and then the state came back and said, wait, one more hurdle. So they had to pull back, but they'll be providing respite care for folks in the community 2 to 3 times a week at their launch. So we're already identifying things such as that. In addition, we're also being able to come together as a group and request for additional grants, funding, and we have a little bit more clout when we're together and speak together than just as individual agencies making a request. So we have the CAP folks in, and they've made us aware of utility grants. They are looking for somebody in this area to help facilitate and use their grants. So our agencies are partnering to come together, and how do we do this as a team and get further resources for the needs in our community. So it's an ongoing, growing thing. I'll admit, with all the healthcare.gov website launch hiccups and everything, we have tested ours to the best of our ability, but we are ready to launch on the website. So if you go to our website and you know somebody who needs help, you can just click Get Help. And there's a simple form. You put your name, just briefly describe what the need is. You can check some boxes of specific needs. How can we contact you? And then you have to put a little number in there so we know you're a human being and not some computer out there, and then hit submit. And we can meet you at the food bank or your own home, or however we can make the contact. The other portion of that we're in the process of building, that's the least pretty, if you want to know my opinion, is the support groups in our community. Where can you go and find a support group? They seem to be pretty scattered, and you have to go specific. So we're trying to get those gathered into one location so that you could, if you're looking for a Parkinson's support group, you can find that on our website, know when, where, and who to contact. So that's on there as well. Volunteer opportunities for you to click where you're interested in volunteering, and then that gets sent to the appropriate agencies for them to contact you. So we're trying to facilitate conversations. Neighbors in Need itself does not actually provide any of the services. All we do is facilitate the connections. That's our role, as we understand it, within the community, is helping to facilitate those connections. Like I said, we are growing, and let me stop there, and I'm sure I'm skipping stuff. I'll let you ask questions or things that you'd like to see of us.
Well, number one, congratulations to you and everyone who put it together. I believe MCSO was involved in it, Rural Metro, and all the other agencies that you mentioned.
John was a part at the very beginning with the homeless initiative and several others. So
Questions, comments from the council?
So maybe you could share with us how you're funded, and if somebody wishes to help you, how would they contact you and give you a hand?
Right. Right now, we are funded through the churches, principally and solely, really, at this point in time. And that was intentional because we wanted the churches to come together and to support this. This is how we see it being able to survive long term. We are in the process of becoming a separate 501c3. At the current moment, it's Desert Hills doing business as DBA until we get the forms all finished and everything. So that way, folks are confident it is separate checking accounts, separate books, and everything like that. We're just now, you're the first as we roll out public. So you're the first stop for me in the public. Kiwanis I'll hit in April, and others I have lined up as well. So if folks do want to give, they can give to Neighbors in Need AZ, and they can send it to P.O. Box 874, Carefree, Arizona, here. So, other questions?
We'll have literature like this in town hall.
Yes, I have some literature right over here, and all the agencies have it, and we're in the process of distributing it out. We have the school is also represented in Neighbors in Need, so they help us identify gaps. And I have meetings later this week to help get it to the hands of all their social workers, counselors, and folks who help, so they also can easily access the community's resources. So, great, thank you, Councilor
Okay,
Glenn.
thank you.
I understand that you're going through schools and probably announcing in the churches, et cetera, and you mentioned a number of times your internet. How else? Because an observation would be that many times people in need don't have computers or aren't literate, or how do they find out about you? What, are you in the early stages of your communication?
We are in the very early stages of our communication, yes. We've intentionally done that because we had to actually develop, we had to write special software for this in order to meet the requirements of the agencies. They wanted two things. First, they wanted to have a person's needs kept confidential. So if you're making multiple requests and all you want is some transportation from the Caring Corps, that's clean and simple. But if you're also needing food and you're needing monetary assistance, does the transportation people at the Caring Corps really need to know that? So there was a request to keep things separate so that the agencies, at the same time, there's a need to keep it all consolidated so we don't lose track of that one request. So that created some pretty complex software. We have done phase 1 of that, we tested it out, and it's worked real well. So we were waiting on that. The other thing is there's a phone number on there, and we don't have the social worker yet, so that means it rings in at the church, and then I get to answer it. And I am not set up at this time to take all that. So I'm really excited about getting the social worker on board. So we're at the early phases. Like I said, I'm going to Kiwanis Chamber, Cave Creek Town Council is going to get on their agenda as well. And then we'll start going public more into the newspaper and that sort of thing. And anybody who wants to help out in these areas, we're also taking volunteers for Neighbors in Need as well in some key areas such as administration area, which will help us. We got to develop our own personnel, policy, procedures, hiring, social worker, communication. So if any of you would like in your spare time.
Thank you and congratulations. I've observed for a number of years that coordination was needed between all these agencies. This is the first time that it seems to be successfully completed. Well done. Congratulations to everyone who worked with you.
Yes, and thank you to all the agencies and the churches that we have a fantastic community. And I really believe God has brought us all together to bring peace to this community and seek it, make it real. So for times such as this. So God bless everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you.